The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now your host, Nicole Hutchison.
Cowboys Nation, welcome into Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. In the SWBC studio, we got Jazz Monet, Jess Navarez, Aisha Morrison.
Ooh, honey, that was tough.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Try that
Today
again.
has been a day.
Try that again.
And
All
you,
right,
and one more time.
Yeah, and you got to introduce yourself.
My bad. All right, we got Jazz Monet, Jess Navarez, Aisha Morrison, and Nicole Hutchison.
There we go.
In the stew.
That was so much
in the
better.
flesh.
What's up, y'all?
Okay.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Today?
I'm ecstatic.
It's Wednesday.
We got a couple more days till reality starts to set in.
Yes.
Of freedom, of mental and emotional freedom.
Is it
As
really
DeMarvin Overshone said in the
Because
locker
I
room
feel
today.
like there's just going to be more to think about and talk about.
Absolutely.
I do not see freedom on the
No,
horizon.
What I'm saying is this is our last little bit of life being okay.
Oh,
okay.
Is it so? No, because I've look, I was talking to Demo in the locker room today, and he said, today's Wednesday, which pretty much means it's almost Sunday. And I was like, what kind of math is that?
That baby excited.
He's ready to jump
That
in.
baby
And I
excited.
That thing
go, I
massive
said,
for
you
me.
missed a few days in that. And he goes, no, it's almost Sunday. And he said, tomorrow's Thursday, which is even closer. I was like,
See, Thursday is their hardest practice, right? So maybe Thursday's the hardest
skipped from
practice, and
Wednesday
after
to
that it's just
Sunday.
like,
Yeah. Speaking of that,
I guess.
there you go.
I'm going to call my grandma the best prayer warrior I
Absolutely.
Fasting and praying.
know. Whoever you pray to, send one up for Thursday practices.
okay.
Just say
You ain't lying.
just a few small words.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
I'll
we're back
be
in that
here,
time.
so you know how I do.
We're back in that time.
I'm like, do I need to bring some sage? Like,
Yes. We'll walk around with sage and just go up and down the hallways.
Kyrie Irving did it best.
You know what? All right, speaking of practices, today everyone is completely healthy except John Stevens. Well, not sure if there's any issue there.
I
but
did talk to him in the
Okay.
locker room.
Well, what you got,
There we
girl?
go.
Yeah,
What you got?
talked to him in
Boom.
the locker room, and it's John Stevens. He's like, I'm good. Very positive, very optimistic. What I would say is I would take it day by day at this point, which I know we don't like that, but I'm at this point, I'm going to go on a limb here and say day by day is probably your best bet.
He was off to the
John
side.
Stevens.
My bad. He was
You're
off to
good.
the side working with Lunda Wells as well, and Jake Ferguson. He did not participate in any team drills, so that's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Especially going into Thursday. But we got a little new episode, little segment going on today in the building. We got
what is
Aisha's
it again?
Insights.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Dang, how you forget?
I didn't.
It was on the rundown.
It was on the rundown.
How are you both forgetting the rundown?
My brain,
Both of you.
blocked it out.
It's crazy. I
It's
don't know.
almost
Wednesday.
Sunday.
It's
It's
literally
Wednesday. It's almost Sunday.
It's fine. All right, Aisha's Insights. 3 players scouting report. Go.
Oh, tater shots. Okay, so I mean, the first one is going to be the quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Only got a 6-game sample size of him last year. This dude's kind of weird.
In what way?
like,
Y'all not going to go get us kicked off the
I
air.
was going to say, girl,
But-
watch with that wording.
Okay, well, he's peculiar.
Okay.
Is that
Lay
better?
that one.
no.
In
But
the,
continue.
In the way in which he plays, I mean, you can watch him one game from last year, and he just looks really clean. He had that fantastic drive, went 14-14 last year against the Ravens, just sharp, accurate, on point, and they actually beat the Ravens. And we know that rivalry is serious, but the Ravens have one of the best defenses in the NFL. So, you will look at him do that, but then the mechanics are just nasty. I mean, the feet don't match the hands. The accuracy can be kind of weird throwing the ball downfield. He's one read sometimes and just scrambling for no reason. And their offensive line is pretty good. And he just has times where he's just like, I'm about to tap dance with y'all right now. Here you are to see a show. And then the ball's not on time. So here's the thing is, like, I think that the Cowboys will have opportunities to pressure him. He really struggles when he is pressured. The pressure rating, his passer rating with pressure goes down to 62.9%. So that's something to look out for as well. But I would say with him also to look for some RPO things, some stuff like that. They do have a new OC. Ken Dorsey came over from Buffalo. So I think we'll see some of the things that we used to see Josh Allen do. First of all, just hallelujah balls. And what I mean by that is just he just throwing it up there for a prayer.
Praying and fasting.
You might see some
as
of
your
that.
grandma says.
Yes, you might see some of that. But we also might see him run the ball a little bit more than what we have seen before. So these Cowboys are gonna have to tackle on stuff. Next guy on my scouting report, I would say Njoku. That is a gentleman that I definitely want to keep an eye on. The tight end, they're a big physical tight end. I'm curious to see who Zimmer deploys, and hopefully we'll get some contact in the locker room tomorrow. But who he deploys, would assume that he would put a safety on Njoku. This is a person that can get run after catch. He breaks tackles. He's pretty good in the open field. You'll see them do things in the screen game with him, a lot of tight end screens and things in the flats or whatever. And then also, I'm not gonna do anything on the offensive line. I'll do a defensive. I'll do a defensive guy. I think the easy one to say is Myles Garrett and how they utilize him and move him around. But it won't just be him. You won't just be him. They move quite a few of their gentlemen, their defensive players across the line of scrimmage. So this offensive line, Cooper Beebe, I don't know if you ladies got a chance to talk to any of the young offensive linemen today. I would love to hear their insight. They're going to have their work cut out for them with communicating, but also to being able to, I would assume that Dallas is going to try to get the ball out quick. Because this defensive line and the way their linebackers fly to the ball too, this running game will be tested and this passing game will be tested. So, Myles Garrett, why can't I remember Njoku's first name?
It's over here.
You got it? I just wrote down last name. I got
David
that bad.
Njoku.
Yeah, David Njoku. I got to do better with that. That's my
Tight
military.
end.
But him and also Deshaun Watson, I think those three gentlemen are just the key guys I'm looking for in this matchup to maybe change the game.
All right, well, thank you so much for that, Aisha.
I know, I felt like I was just talking.
No, that was clutch. That was clutch. That was so
Thank you,
clutch.
ladies.
You talked about Myles Garrett. That brings us to our first little talking point. This offensive line. We heard from Tyler Guyton, Cooper Beebe this week so far, but specifically Tyler Guyton today talking to the media. He had mentioned that, he's so prepared, and that kind of helps with his cool, calm, and collected spirit going into a game like this. And he also touched on how, the reps in practice with Micah Parsons has really helped. My question to y'all, is the fact that, you've had reps up against arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL. But when it comes to live game reps, do y'all think that Tyler Guyton is prepared for this against Myles Garrett?
Welcome to the NFL. If you're not, I mean, truly, if this is a measuring stick game to measure where he's at in his growth in this position, this is it. This is as much of a measuring stick as you're getting. Like, you are not going to see a tougher matchup than this probably for a long span of the season when you look at the schedule, but if ever throughout the rest of the season. What I will say about Myles Garrett is, I was talking to some of the guys around the locker room. I won't rat them out who it was, but something interesting that they noticed, because last week they used as a little bonus week to study up on these guys and kind of the nuances in which they do things, which arm they push off of, which foot they step off of the most. I mean, you're talking nitpicking into the film, right?
Love film.
Some of them had we know. Some of them had told me that they feel like this defense, obviously you have your thermometer of your defense. Myles Garrett is that for the Browns. However, sometimes that could be an issue because other guys, especially when you're talking in terms of red zone, your linebackers, your safeties, lose their eyes a little bit because they're a little too focused on what's going on with Myles Garrett. So something that you're really going to notice in this game is the Cowboys offense taking advantage of those wandering eyes and those split-second decisions. So that's something I picked up today in the locker room that I thought was really interesting to notice, because you hear Myles Garrett and you're like, yes, that's a scary matchup. But you have to remember, they rely on him a little too much sometimes, and I think when you look back last year at their red zone woes, big issue to win.
Yeah,
I think physically.
Go ahead.
I think physically Tyler Guyton is probably prepared. I think from a mental standpoint, which is almost like I'm more worried about what Jim Schwartz might do to mess with the rookies mentally than them handling it physically. We've seen that both Cooper Beebe and Tyler Guyton can be very dominant physically, but now we're dealing with not only Myles Garrett, who can move up and down the line, but now they've got Zadarius Smith in addition to that, and he's played edge, he's played interior, he's played linebacker, and done really well in all those positions, right? So now Jim Schwartz has at minimum two pieces that he can move all over the place and not only physically take advantage of weaknesses, but also kind of disguise some things in ways that might confuse some people. Now, one thing that does give me confidence, are we talking about both rookies or just Guyton?
Let's talk Tyler Guyton.
Okay.
Actually, let's talk both.
Okay. Well, I can talk both. One thing that does give me confidence in Cooper Beebe is the fact that from listening to him, he definitely trusts the Hall of Famer that's going to be to his right. Yep. So if there's, for some reason, that he is not, doing well when it comes to the pre-snap reads, he's going to trust Zach Martin. He's going to trust Dak Prescott, who is known for being really good at both pre-snap and post-snap reads, right? So there's going to be communication there that'll support him. Also, with Tyler Guyton being a tackle, there's always the opportunity to put a tight end out there to, space whoever happens to be on him, or, one of our running backs who's really good in pass pro, like he might have help on occasion. So I do think ultimately they'll get the job done, but I do think that Jim Schwartz, being who he is, and I'm sure you can speak to this as much as you watch film, like I feel like he's going to try to, especially with these pieces that he has now, play with them a little bit. Like that defense is very experienced. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and actually that's something that, Jim Schwartz talked about in one of his pressers, is the fact that, just like the Cowboys offense this year, they're no longer in an install. They know the system. So now they can add wrinkles and different things. Now, I don't think they're going to completely defer from the things that they already did. But to your point, he is going to probably try to trip up the quarterback, because the quarterback's IQ is, people know. I mean, people think he's dummy McDumpsters, but he's actually very intelligent.
When you talk about dummy McDumpsters,
and then I'm so glad that you brought up the red zone woes, because this is it's baffling.
Dang it, I was gonna touch one.
Don't give us the stats, sister. Give it to us straight, sister.
Let's go.
The Browns gave up touchdowns on 71.4% of opponents' red zone trips in 2023. That was worst in the dang league last year, by the way.
It's confounding.
But also,
It's
the
interesting.
Cowboys did not score much in the red zone either. They had some troubles in the red zone. So that brings me to my next point. How much will that play in a role in this game?
Obviously, it's important. Both offenses, I said it yesterday, I think both offenses are going to take some time to get a little going. Like, neither one of them played in preseason. Yeah. We can expect this throughout the NFL. We might see teams running the ball a little bit more, whatever the case may be. But I will say that it's going to mean something. It's going to mean something when you get down there, because it's Cowboys got to score down there.
And who the hell is our red zone guy?
Oh, I got you.
Well, first of all,
will it not be Zeke?
We don't. You should in
be.
theory, your offensive line has more power on the interior. You should be able to do more things in the red zone from a run game perspective. It was like a lid on that thing when it came to running the ball last year. So them figuring that out also too, because the window is smaller. It's harder to pass down there unless you have guys that can just win on their own very quickly. So being able to put it on tape. I'm looking for, I want them to win the game. Put your run game on tape.
Absolutely.
So coming forward, teams will start respecting it a little bit more.
One thing that they did have a little bit of success with last season was kind of going for the score before they got to the red zone, or before they got deep into the red zone.
Yes.
So, I mean, if they're looking for a way around the issues that they have offensively, that might be the answer. But if they're looking to take advantage of the Browns, like if they're like, okay, we got a few new pieces on the offense and they're looking to take advantage of the Browns, I think it's just going to come down to kind of solving the series of puzzles that Schwartz puts in front of them and getting down there. And I really do think that once they get down there, yes, the Cowboys have had their issues, but I think if they can get down there, they'll do all right. You know
who all eyes are on, and I mean my eyes specifically, the tight end room. Oh. You want to talk about...
I thought she was... I don't know what I thought she was going to say, but it's not that.
Look, y'all, I've been up since 3 a.m. I don't have any corny puns. I didn't have any corny puns. But what I will say, I mean, I had him in the locker room. You missed it. Nicole was witness to all the corny puns I was given. You were standing right there?
Y'all was in there stressing out them players.
You don't remember that.
Kalen Carson. He thought anything but bland went hard. He said, that goes hard. So I was like, I'll come up with one for you. Don't worry. Anyways.
Go ahead, baby. Go.
You were standing right next to me. You literally were laughing.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, but I will say, all eyes on the tight end room, because you want to talk about red zone and who needs to be involved. Well, first of all, your tight ends need to have more production than they did last year. Period. Absolutely. Point blank. That's not that's not even up for debate. But what I'm looking at in this specific game is you need those big body guys. I talked to a guy, Brevin Spanford, talked to him in the locker room today, and I asked him, obviously you want to be, involved in the screen game and everything else too, but as far as red zone specifically, do you feel like you could be a red zone guy? Because obviously we know Jake Ferguson, solid, sealed, signed, sealed, delivered, him and CD, they're your red zone receiver and tight end. We know that. That's not even up for debate. What I'm looking at is the unexpected guy, the guy with the unscouted looks that the Browns don't really have a lot of tape on Brevin Spanford. A big body guy with a long arm span. Brevin Spanford, I think, will be a good red zone guy and develop as things kind of progress on throughout the season. But I think this could be a good game for him to kind of just, again, welcome to the NFL. This is your time to shine.
That was a good one. That is a really good one. Ladies, I think that was Jazz who mentioned the way that Jim Schwartz kind of disguises a lot of things defensively. That's something that I've kind of looked at as well, and how the blitzes from the interior can come from anybody. Come on, Scouty.
Come on,
But no, they come from anybody.
So proud of you.
But just when you talk about things like that, what challenge does that present for this Cowboys offensive line?
It's like I said, it comes down to communication and the declarations. And by, I'm going to do what Chrissy does by declarations. If that's what the center is doing. That's what the quarterback is doing when they're seeing these. If they see a linebacker kind of coming up to the line of scrimmage and acting like he's going to blitz, they're saying like, hey, 55, whoever, whatever number. Like, so the communication has to be on point. So that starts with, it sounds like they've been in their film a little bit extra. They need to be. And, there's just some experience. There's just some experience over there from the coaching standpoint. I'm pretty sure these guys will be ready for what's happening, but having to deal with it in real time is no joke. This Cleveland defensive line and the way they use their linebackers too, they are fast. This is a fast defense, and they hit real hard as well. So I just think that they're just going to have to continue to be in their film room and their playbook, and that's really all you can do. You can't do nothing else other than that. It's going to be loud.
What are y'all expecting out of Terence Steele? He's a guy who obviously,
Man of Steel. There it was.
I knew it was coming.
I'm back.
I knew
He has
it was
a
coming.
disease.
A guy who obviously struggled last year, just with coming back from his injury. But this is someone who's now fully healthy, who had a really good camp. What are y'all expecting out of him on Sunday, or what are y'all looking for out of Terence Steele?
I mean, I'm expecting to see a very different performance than last season. When it comes to injuries like the one that he had, the more time after that injury that you can stay healthy and train and kind of get back to your normal routine, the better he's going to look. So, I mean, we didn't get to see a lot of him any of him in preseason games. So it's really hard to say like what to truly expect in a live game situation. But I do think that, he's been named a starter for a reason. So in this particular game, I can't say what I'm necessarily expecting to see, but what I'm hoping to see is for him to, kind of hold it down on that end and communicate just like everybody else. But generally speaking, I do think that he's going to look a lot better than he looked last season.
Yeah, I caught up with him yesterday in the locker room and just kind of said, how much better do you feel now that you had an entire training camp not having to worry about an injury? And he goes, night and day. Like the way he was, you could see his shoulders just like relax, and
he walks around more relaxed too. You can tell.
And he said it obviously completely different training camp for him, but being able to just focus on what he needed to focus on, not focusing on an injury of how much can he do, how much can he not do. We're ramping up, we're taking things slow. He's like, I could just go all in, head in fearless into this, training camp. So he said actually having a full training camp where he's not worrying about that was really, really important for him. What I was looking at too is when you're talking about the matchup he's going to have with Zadarius Smith, this is interesting because Zadarius Smith could be on the inside or outside. You mentioned his versatility earlier, Jazz. I was doing some research here, and here's the thing. He's had 13 snaps on interior just last season alone, but history shows he is successful in the interior. So listen to this. In 2019, 5 of his 13 sacks were in the interior. In 2020, 8 of his 12.5 sacks also on the interior. Pretty much, this guy could go either way on Terence Steele. So all this to say, Terence Steele needs to be prepared and grounded, which absolutely looks like he's going to be because you could go either side here with Zadarius on the inside or the outside. Regardless, he's ready. There's
even been speculation that Schwartz might try to put Myles Garrett on Terence Steele.
You
so I really think that if it's circling, or if that rumor is circling among us, there's no way that this is something that the coaching staff or Terence Steele himself haven't thought about. So I totally expect them to have come up with a solution for whatever it is they expect to face. Now, could they still see some surprises? Yes. And that's the scary part, right? Because so many NFL games, it's not about, did you have a bad game? You could have a bad series or one bad snap and switch, like, who ends up being the winner, right? But ultimately, I do expect them to have thought about what he might end up facing and be prepared for it.
Who has the advantage? Cowboys offensive line or Browns defensive line?
Their defensive line.
Their defensive line.
100%.
Their defensive line, just because we still don't know, like,
Yeah.
we got some kiddos on this line, this offensive line. It is what it is. There's some kiddos. It is what it is. And to y'all's points about, Za'Darius, I'm glad you brought up the numbers about him being on the interior. They do twist stunts. They do, like, some exotic fronts. Like, when they line up in that wide net. And that's what gave Terence Steele trouble last year. We're starting to see DNs line up really wide of the formation. So they have, in their mind, they think they have, and if you're fast enough, you have a more of a straight line shot to the quarterback as opposed to having to actually bend the edge. And that's something that Za'Darius doesn't do particularly well. He's not bendy. He's very powerful in how he does, and he can play angles. So for me, with Terence, I want to see him improve his platform. Because last year, so many times he was lunging, he was reaching, and some of those speed rushers, he couldn't bend his knees, I don't think, the way that he needed to, like, get out of his kick step and really, like, find his anchor. So he was there were dudes just running around him. Like, I don't know y'all remember. It was just dudes just
We remember
running around him, and it was tough.
The sacks back to back?
It was Philly. That Philly game
Eagles,
was
like,
rough.
really, they took it to him.
Yeah, that Philly game was rough, and that's because it was like his brain wanted to react, but his body was late off the snap. So that was one thing I was looking for him, is him firing off the ball faster and being the initiator with contact. He was more reactionary last year, which is natural given what he was going through.
Right.
But also
and he was still young.
Yes, but the good thing about it too is you mentioned the tight ends. If Terence Steele doesn't have to get help over there, because they had to help him a lot last year, whether it was a running back or a tight end. Now that tight end, if he plays well, that tight end can be a receiving option and not have to help him out, so for pass protection. So that'll open up the offense as well if he can play well.
Love that we've shined a light on this offensive line. Now, what can we expect Mike McCarthy to cook up offensively? That's coming up in our next segment. You're watching Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
Rally Days presented by SeatGeek will give NFL fans an experience of a lifetime the day prior to Dallas Cowboys home games. On September 14th, enjoy activities at Miller Lite House. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of AT&T Stadium and more. Visit attstadium.com/rallydays for more information and to get your tickets today.
Visit Rally Days. I feel like it's been it's been a minute since I've done the
You got a request
little
for it,
accent
like a couple weeks ago.
I did. Jazzy. We gon' box. Anyways, all right, guys. Still talking to Cowboys offense, Browns defense. Here's a little stat line for you guys. Browns gave up the fewest yards per game last year, but the 13th most points per game. 5th in the league in takeaways and 1st in third down defense. So with all that being said, how can Mike McCarthy dial up points effectively? And just a little disclaimer out y'all, if y'all listening to this, this is not what we've seen or nothing. This is just how we feel like Mike McCarthy should cook things up offensively.
Oh, y'all asking me?
Yeah, I'm sorry with you, Aisha. My bad.
Well, listen, I don't talk about stuff I don't know, and I haven't studied that side of the ball yet. So I'm just gonna talk very generally.
Yeah, like what?
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it
100%.
tomorrow. I just
your thoughts.
listen. I ain't trying to lie.
No.
Sure enough. But how I would attack them?
Yeah.
So their secondary, it really is the middle of their defense that I think you have the best chance to attack like that. Jordan Hicks is a pretty good linebacker, and then Owazu Kamara. I didn't know he was over there. Ain't nobody got time for him. They're fast, both of them. I don't know how well they do in coverage. I think we could see we could see Jake Ferguson have some success against this interior. As far as their defensive line goes, one thing I did see is that people just ran away from Myles Garrett, which is what smart people do, which is what people did against Micah all last year is like, we're not even trying to be bothered with you today. Mm-hmm. So they did some misdirection. Just you mentioned the misdirection that I think is helpful too, because this is an aggressive downhill defense, and that secondary, as sticky as they can be in coverage as well, you can get them peeking into the backfield. And it's honestly important. I'm actually kind of glad, to be honest. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm actually kind of glad because we saw this offense be so fickle when it came to motion. And shifts and stuff like that. The rest of the league is trending up when it comes to trying to create spacing at the line of scrimmage and trying to get, defenses to look one way and go the other. This offense didn't do that much last year, and for them to kind of be required to a little bit, hopefully that's something that they adopt going into this game. I think we can see the screen game have some success.
Will the screen game be in the room with us?
We're going to pray about it. That's all we can do.
Because it wasn't last year.
I'm dead.
It wasn't in the room with us.
When it comes to things like motion, do you think, especially considering that there's a couple of guys on the O-line who are still going to be getting used to things, like with it being that they're going to be away and might have to deal with a silent count or a quick count, do you really think that that's something that they're going to try to implement?
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because last year Mike McCarthy said we weren't doing as much because we had some changes on the offensive line. You know what? Yep. The beauty of this is you knew what your opponent was weeks ago. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Them Nuggets can be up to speed.
No excuses?
Yep.
No, because it's going to be like that in the playoffs. And again, like it is a grow up fast type of thing, but
facts.
This is how you have to win the game. I mean, you can play these guys straight up, but you're going to come out with a lot of bumps and bruises.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be doing, the window dressing decoration, put some sprinkles on it in this game. But that's a very good point, though. We'll see.
I think.
My bad, go ahead.
No, I wanted to say, going off of what you saw last year, since obviously we don't have viable film for this year yet. What I will say is an area of improvement that you want to see be more productive overall is obviously the run game. Absolutely. I mean, period. That's going to help you in all aspects. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see Rico Dowdle take a majority of those snaps, especially getting downfield. And then you're going to see an Ezekiel Elliott in the red zone. And Zeke has been predominantly successful in the red zone during his tenure in Dallas. And I think even when the Patriots picked him up, that was a big hotspot for him and a big bargaining reason why they ended up picking him up because they were ranked pretty low in the red zone, picked Zeke up, who I believe was first or second highest scoring in the red zone that year. But all that to say, if you want to attack, start your run. And, you're saying like, hey, they might take it slower because they haven't had a preseason, use the run game. I'm okay with that because dang it, that means you have a run game. And I'm okay with that. But, like, you want to see it throughout the rest of the season as well. So what I want to see is kind of what their plan is with the running back room in general. But what I think you see is you see a little more of Rico Dowdle than you're probably expecting.
I can agree with that, too, because Zeke, obviously on Cowboys Hour, had mentioned, and he had said that, I'm happy with just about 12 to 15 carries a game. Like, that will satisfy me, and it'll help him prolong his career. Because you mentioned even the toll it takes on the running backs. So, yeah, I think that's actually an interesting point. I'd love to see this running game.
Yeah, we're all curious about what the run game is going to look like. Now, one thing I am a little bit excited about, and maybe without good reason, I'm not saying that, like, this is going to happen, but I feel like the Cowboys have offensive pieces right now that would allow them more versatility in their run game depending on how they use them.
Yep.
Because we've got Deuce Vaughn, who looks different than anything we've seen in the Cowboys run game for a long time. We saw CeeDee Lamb line up in the backfield last season, so I don't know how much they plan on using that this year, especially the first game and CeeDee not having been in preseason, so on and so forth. But I say that to say there is opportunity for them to do that. But it's like, it's one of those things where who knows? Today at practice, we saw them doing everything. We saw the quarterbacks, taking taking snaps from under center. My mind was saying I saw them under center and also lining up in shotgun, and it came out as taking shots.
It's that time.
They were not
Almost
taking
Sunday.
shots at practice. No. We saw them taking snaps under center and lining up in shotgun. We saw them doing some work over the middle, which is something that they didn't do as much as people would have liked last season. So I'm really like, who knows what we might see from this offense,
Near year 2 in a Mike McCarthy offense. And now, at this point, it comes down to language. And that's really what you always hear, especially when I was hearing, Mike talk about Dalvin Cook even. It's the language to catch up on. So at this point, look, I just want to see what you were talking about, Aisha, earlier, the wrinkles and everything kind of creased out for this Mike McCarthy offense. And I'm curious to see if it looks more like the Green Bay Mike McCarthy play calling that you saw. And if that's the case, your tight ends are going to be vital. And maybe that's why you took more on the roster.
It is year 5 for Mike McCarthy. And in Green Bay, in year 5, what did he do?
Won a Super Bowl.
Hey, just showing that out there.
That was really quick on that. I'm sorry. That was really aggressive. I just got excited that I knew that.
Completely fine. Completely fine. Fine. Kevontae Turpin, are y'all looking to see a little bit more of him within this offense on Sunday?
Yeah, but I also think starting field position. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Say it.
I'm tired of my quarterback having to start drives at his own 8.
Absolutely.
Bad things happen back there. Bad things happen, especially if you ain't got no run game.
Specific with the 8.
Bad things happen. I'm sick of him starting drives at the 8 and having to drive the whole length of the field. It's beautiful.
Then
wonderful.
there's rare cases when, you find CeeDee Lamb for a night. Okay.
But starting field position killed you last year in a lot of these games. And I'm sick of it. So I say that to say I really just would love some good starting field position, Kevontae Turpin. We ask not much of you. Just please.
Are we praying to
please.
Turpin?
I think she is.
No. Have y'all seen Jakey Promoters? Please, brother, please, brother, please.
Who that?
I'll introduce you to it. It has Craig and Day Day in it.
You know what?
Very niche comment right there. Very niche. But yeah, I what I'm looking for Kevontae Turpin is to take advantage. I think we'll see Bones. Has anybody asked him yet? Because he probably got something up his sleeve.
I saw him today.
I'm ready. I'm curious, especially since he was one of the people who really pushed for this new rule change.
Yeah.
Not just pushed for it, he helped write it.
Yeah, he's a sneaky little something.
No,
so I wonder if he has some wrinkles or like we talked about that he wants to throw out there.
He does, and they're probably being kept under lock and key.
Today he had, I think we've seen this multiple times though. Wanye Thomas back at returner, and by the way,
he tweeted it.
And so, and he also set 5 school records as a returner at Georgia Tech, by the way. So it could be a little sneaky weapon in there. But
well, doesn't that make you question though? Because Deuce Vaughn's usually in that spot too. Well, I mean, I know there's going to be different packages for all of that. How much does that maybe indicate the involvement of Deuce Vaughn a little bit more on the offense than we're thinking as well.
Honestly, that's a good point. It sounds like they do.
But it could also be, we were talking about it too at practice.
I think
for
it's
a blocking aspect.
Yeah, Patrick Nosey Walker, shout out to him for this info. He was just saying it might just depend on like the personnel you use as far as blocking. And if you need like an extra blocker, a guy who can also return just in case, you bring a guy like Wanya who has experience returning.
Perfect guy for that.
Yeah, no.
That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that, and if they're going to utilize Turp in the slot a little bit and stuff like that. Crossing routes and stuff like that are really starting to be problems for it, even if your corners are good. Our corners got toe up last year with deep crossers and stuff like that. So, yeah. I mean, Kevontae Turpin can definitely be a part of the slot game, but please, some good starting position.
Okay. Well,
por favor.
All right, por favor. Well, por favor, let's please take this second break. And you're watching Girls Talk, Boys Talk. We'll be right back.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Come shop at the Star in Frisco on Saturday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Flea Styles Market at the Star, presented by Maker Place by Michaels. Featuring 50-plus local makers offering art, fashion, home decor, jewelry, and kids' items. Market at the Star is always a favorite. Admission is free. Visit thestardistrict.com for more info.
I was trying. It was going to get a little ding.
What's
I don't
happening?
think Jazz was gonna give me a little ding today with my British accent, so I'm gonna let her make it. Welcome back, ladies. Last year the Cowboys really struggled to find their identity until the second half of the season. How crucial is it for them to come out the gate and on Sunday establish that offensive identity? I'll start with you, Jazz.
How crucial is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very crucial. I think it's hard to really say more than that because we really don't know what to expect from this offense. Like, we don't know what to expect from the run game. As you mentioned, we don't know what to expect from the tight ends. Yeah. We haven't really seen what tendencies we might see from Dak Prescott or what the offense looks like if, for example, something that could happen if both CeeDee Lamb and Ryan Flournoy are on the field at the same time. There's so much that we don't know. But one thing that we can point to is the fact that in the past, when they've struggled to find an identity, they haven't really done very well. So for no other reason other than that, that. They need to all be on the same page about what their go-tos are, what their tendencies are, and what that identity is going to be, so that they can like move forward without having a lot of hesitation on the offensive side.
Yeah, I think when you look at in terms of what the offensive identity has been, we were talking about this during break. I said, well, did they even have an identity other than CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott? Because it's true.
Yeah.
And that's what you knew about the Cowboys offense last year. So I think establishing their offensive identity specifically for this game in terms of establishing it early means you establish the dominance in the game. But I think going on through the season and as it progresses, you want that identity that you ended with last year of just being Dak and CD to really expand and put respect on Jake Ferguson's name as a tight end one that, you know, is a force to be reckoned with in this league. You want the running back room, who people are kind of scoffing at, to be like, oh, Rico Dowdle, who? And Zeke's back, okay. You want them to have respect when you're talking in all terms of your offense, and even doubting, you know, these younger guys on the offensive line. So for their sake and the respect of their opponents and how they're going to have to scheme against the Cowboys going forward, because this is only week 1, you want these guys to come out strong, especially against the Cleveland team, who is going to give you probably one of the tougher challenges that you're going to have early on in this set of the schedule.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, building confidence and instilling confidence early is important, but it's really simple to me. Hey, listen, the first 5 games last year, them 2 games that you lost, Cardinals and San Fran, guess what came back to bite you in the ass and seed in? Those 2 games.
Specifically,
Those 2 games could have had you as the number 1 seed. You could have been chilling at the house first round.
I mean, but shout out to the Eagles for losing.
I mean,
we
you know
love
what?
that too.
I think that's one thing
Tasted
that we can all
sweeter.
agree we don't want.
Exactly.
You don't
like,
want to have
you
to
know,
rely on other people to get you your wins and get you your seeding.
And if
Not
they
only
had
that,
it,
but like last year there was that whole trimester thing, and I'm like, nah, whatever the offense is gonna be, like just let it be that. We don't need to take 6 weeks with like 40% of the offense out there. Like just let them get comfortable with whatever it is, so that by the time the season ends, we're clicking on all cylinders.
that's the important part to me.
I also, sorry, I want to jump in because we're talking about woes from last year as far as identity. You know what identity I want to see? Winning road games. That's what identity I want to freaking see.
Yeah, that's a really good point that they start off
That's a good one.
with the win on the road and get that monkey off their back.
Yep.
That's actually important too.
Yeah, quiet as it's kept, the Cowboys are underdogs in this game.
It's not that quiet.
I know who's being quiet about
And you know what's so crazy is like
Not anybody we know.
I get
Not
them
Twitter.
being dogs. Like I get them being dogs because the state of the running back room across like the national media, they don't think that it's any good. But also too, you know, Cleveland's defense has been that good. But baby, what are y'all watching from Deshaun Watson that makes you think that this? And again, they went
They
out and
couldn't
got
be
Jared
watching
Judy.
nothing from Deshaun Watson because he hasn't played in like 10 months.
They went out and got Jared Judy. They got Amari Cooper, who's a dog. They got Elijah Moore in the slot.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have players. Like, don't get me wrong. But it's like, what else? Sorry.
The reason I said quiet as it's kept is just because the criticism that I've been hearing, it's like people expect the Cowboys to win, but also like it's like the Cowboys should win, but they're not going to. It's like the vibe that I get from national media.
It's the road. It's also
road
too.
issue.
It's the road.
It's the road.
It's the road games.
And so I'm glad you brought that up. That's a huge part of it. But for me, it's also too seeding, and that this stuff can, like, these games even this early that you think like, oh no, we're just getting our feet under us or whatever. Nah, man. You could have had the number 1 seed sewed up last year.
Yep.
If you would have taken these early games seriously or been able to adjust quickly enough.
I think the players are taking it seriously.
They seem like it. I can't wait to see them humans tomorrow.
What I will say too is what it sounds like from Mike McCarthy is there was adjustments made pre-road games.
Love it.
Is, you know, small things that he's like, if I say it out loud, you're gonna be like, oh, that doesn't really matter. But they did, you know, do studies on the amount of sleep these guys were getting before road games and just little logistics like that. So I'm interested to see, you know, as the season progresses, getting to talk to them a little bit more, maybe talking to Mike about it, how much, you know, in season adjusting they do if those things don't work, or if they kind of wait until the end of the season to see.
And
it's interesting.
I think the preseason game, even, you know, that wasn't the starters playing, the preseason game against the Raiders was honestly, I think, like a good little practice, so to speak. A good little boost, the win, right, on the road, so to speak, even though it was kind of right down the street, but it don't matter. It's still on the road.
Do y'all think that them having, because we're creatures of habit, clearly. Do you think that them having, because, they talk about the fact that the players get to sleep in their own bed, before the home games and stuff, and clearly they were really good at home last year. Do y'all think that the on-the-road stuff, like, do you think it's like the habit of it, like the fact that they aren't sleeping in their bed or whatever?
What studies?
I don't think it should. I don't think it should be.
I don't think it should either.
What studies have shown is that it does. Now, the degree to which it impacts competitors, and most of these studies have been done across like multiple sports, right? Not specifically on the 2024 Dallas Cowboys. So just that caveat. But what most studies show is that it does even on a subconscious level, because as humans, like you said, with us being creatures of habits, when there's new stimuli, it affects us. And there's a concept called CNS fatigue, central nervous system fatigue, that can be impacted by lots of things. And so one of the things that can impact people on like a lower level is just like being in a new environment, having to change their habits, having to change their routine, being in a different place, and it just kind of makes your brain work a little bit differently. Yeah. Whereas there are things that are kind of like routine, they're habit that you don't have to think about. It's kind of like, have y'all ever heard stories of like Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day so that he could dedicate mental power to other stuff? Yeah. Like little things like that. So like when you hear Mike McCarthy talk about get 1% better every day, things like that are like one of the 1% things that could potentially make a difference. Now, is it something that would be worth a player going to the podium and being like, well, yeah, my routine was different? No.
They better not.
But keeping them in routine as much as possible, however, can be a subtle benefit.
I also think it's hard, though, when you're the Dallas Cowboys and you play so many primetime games that are late. You don't have a sense of consistency in your schedule pretty much ever. I mean, you look at even just the last few years, how many primetime games, how many Thursday games, how many Monday games these guys play, which in turn impacts the schedule that they're allowed to play or allowed to have and the routine they're allowed to have, because you're constantly all over the place with your schedule, more so arguably than other teams are across the league. And I'm not making excuses for them. That's just a fact. When you're the Dallas Cowboys, guess what you bring? You bring Cowboys Nation with you, which is a lot in full force. So it's hard to say kind of what the issue boiled down to, Aisha, to go back to your question about the road games and what exactly was causing it. But I feel like it also came down to a mental thing more than anything, because you look at the practice, these guys practice to be in, grass and turf, outside, weather conditions. It's not a matter of those factors. It really just seemed like a mental hurdle.
So my thing is, I agree with both of y'all, but this is what you sign up for.
No, as a competitor, there's no excuse.
We're
just rationalizing.
No, I'm
just trying to find what the problem was.
And I hated that they never kind of figured that out.
And they didn't have no answers.
They had no answers.
I was hot. I was like,
And it's frustrating.
I think that's why preparation is going to be so essential, because yes, it can be distracting, and yes, you don't know what to expect from the crowd, but you have to kind of prepare yourself for all the conditions that you might have to deal with. Yeah. And the more that you're prepared to work with other people, for example, we talked about the communication on the offensive line. The more that you're prepared to deal with that, the harder it is for anything to throw you off your game. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I don't care if they had to drive 3-4 hours to the game. It's like preparation is preparation. Absolutely. And so if they go out there and stink up the field, I'm going to say, okay, they weren't prepared.
It was just interesting, though, because they had the same preparation that they would during home games, and then it just wasn't reflecting during the away games. So that kind of was the frustration. But what I will say is you won't know if that problem is fixed until we're, halfway through the season. Even if they do win on Sunday, you're not going to know, and the magical streak's going to end of are they a competitor on the road? You don't know. You really won't know for a few weeks, and you get a few away games under your belt.
Well, first game is underway. 3:25 kickoff on Fox on Sunday in Cleveland.
Central Time.
Be there, be square. If not, you can be right here with us here in Dallas, Texas.
You act like we ain't got two more shows.
I know. I'm just trying to promote
It's almost Sunday.
It's almost Sunday, though.
Is it? I will say, listening to,
as Demo said, it's Wednesday, so it's pretty much Sunday.
I will say, listening to their offense talk, they do seem like the Browns. They do feel like there's a sense of urgency from that offense to perform because they understand how good this defense is. And they also understand that their defense is what carried them almost all of last year. So there is some urgency, it seems like, for them to come out and perform and to play better. So ain't nobody in the mood for y'all having an awakening and we being the people who have to suffer.
An awakening.
When you have when you're going into contract years, yeah.
Because I'm talking about Deshaun Watson, like he's
be
inaccurate and all this. He might go out there and just start. You know how people do when they playing the Cowboys. He'd be like,
Yeah,
They
the
really
week
do be
before.
showing up totally different, huh?
"Oh, brother, this guy stinks," and then you turn on the game,
Boo,
and
tomato,
he just.
There's a lot of pressure on Deshaun Watson this season too, but I think we're gonna talk about that tomorrow.
We're gonna
right?
talk about that
We're gonna
tomorrow.
talk about tomorrow.
All right, this is your show, ladies. That is a wrap for today's episode of Girls Talk, Boys Talk. Presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Bye.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.